So we're going to get started. As I want to bear in mind that you guys are giving us your time this afternoon in this very snowy day. I know I shoveled last week like 4 times, so we're going to get started with those muscles for today too. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. My name is Berenice Pan. I'm a FACE manager with Family, Community Engagement, and Education for Chicago Public Schools. And as I mentioned in every session, I'm also a CPS graduate. So this is something that I did, the topic that we're going to talk about today. And I also have my munchkin, who's a 6th grader. So I'm already thinking about college. So this is going to be very informative for me and for a lot of you guys. So thank you for joining us. A couple of things before we get started. Do note that we are going to record this session just to make sure that other parents who were not able to join us are able to see it later on. Usually we upload the video on Fridays, latest Monday, so bear with us if it's not there on Friday, if it's not there tomorrow. We are going to get started with a small presentation from our chief, and then we will do a conversation with the questions that you guys provided through your RSVPs. 15 minutes before we end the session, we're going to open up the chat where you guys can do additional questions in case we were not able to answer. So again, bear with us. We might not be able to get to those questions, but we will try our very best to answer as much as we can. Okay. And today we're going to learn about college applications and what's happening right now in Chicago Public Schools and in the city of Chicago with college applications, the crisis that we're seeing. Before we get started, I do want to share with you guys the list of the upcoming sessions that we have so you guys can see them on the screen, the chiefs that are going to come in and share their expertise with us, the dates, the times, and as you guys know, you have to RSVP, so you guys, we will put those links in the chat, and we will also send that information tomorrow via email in case you forget it, so don't have to freak out and click on the chat and try to copy and paste that really fast. We'll send that to you guys tomorrow via email. And then without further ado, we want to talk about today, and our speaker is Dr. Michael Deuser from, he's our Chief of College and Career Success. So I know he comes with us with full of expertise and being in this field for a very, very long time and supporting our kids as they're making their plans for post-sec. So I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit. Chief?
Thank you so much. I also want to say thank you so much to everyone who's here on this Zoom. It's such a privilege and an honor to speak with families whenever I get the chance. It's one of my favorite parts of my job, and I don't get to do it nearly as much as I'd like, so I really appreciate the opportunity. I am the Chief of the Office of College and Career Success here at CPS, and one of the things that we do is support our students in getting ready for college. Getting ready for post-secondary of all kinds. And so very excited to come talk to you today. Yes, frankly, about the college application and enrollment crisis, and I don't think that's an unfair term. And at the same time, you know, every crisis presents an opportunity, and I think that we've got a great opportunity to act against adversity right now and to really not just, you know, achieve the heights that together we have up until now in terms of college access and success and post-secondary success more broadly for our kids, your kids. I also have a CPS kindergartner, and I'm also starting to think, even though it's pretty early on in the game, about you know, how I can support her on her post-secondary journey. So this conversation is very timely. I know COVID and school reopening are on everyone's minds as they are on all of ours. And to my mind, post-secondary access and post-secondary success are just as important now as they have ever been, and even more important in light of some of what we are seeing and dealing with out there socially, economically, and otherwise. So just again, want to thank everyone for being here. And also did want to let you know, I believe they are on the call here as well. I, like any other leader at CPS, couldn't do this work without fantastic people on my teams and fantastic expertise. There are two wonderful people in particular who are joining me here today. One of them is Maria Bucio, our Director of Post-Secondary Pathways, who's done a fantastic job since coming on board in her role now a little over a year ago. Also, Michelle Howard, who's our Senior Manager of Scholarships, is here. I think that they will both be able to answer some of the additional questions you may have, but I do hope that the presentation will answer a lot of the questions that you may have around how can we best prepare our students for post-secondary success and college success in particular right now.
Thank you, Chief, for that, and welcome to your team as well. And as you're talking about what they do and their expertise, I'm sure they're going to have a lot of questions from our parents. So thank you guys for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I know you have a brief presentation that you want to share with us. So I'm going to stop sharing so that you're able to share with us.
Okay. I've had a lot of experience doing this over the past few months, and so hopefully it will work. Can you
Yep,
all see my screen now?
we can see it.
Okay, thank you for saying it verbally. All I can see are the slides at this point.
Yeah,
So
we're good. You're
I
good to
wish I could
go.
be making eye contact. Okay, let's get going. So, this is titled Reopening Updates, and we want to talk about college access with an eye towards that. And as I said, this college access work is not just about reopening, it's not just about COVID. It remains an imperative for us before all of this started, it will remain an imperative for us after hopefully it's all in the rearview mirror. But I did want to speak a little bit to reopening in particular, and just reemphasize the message that you've been hearing from the district here for some time now, that equity is a moral imperative, and we are focused on equitably responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we know that a part of that is getting students back into schools in person safely. And the sooner we can do that and have it be a sustainable reentry, we know the better off we all will be. And we're committed to making sure that we can do that and do that safely in a way that satisfies all stakeholders in the community. So as you know, students enrolled in pre-kindergarten and moderate intensive cluster programs did return to in-person learning on January 11th. At the moment, as you likely also know, if you've been reading the news and reading the emails that you're getting from the district, all students in the district are currently learning remotely. We are actively working with the CTU to bring back in-person schooling, not only to those students, but for all students in grades PK through 8, in addition to cluster students. And we very much hope to make that an option for all families in the near future. In addition to that, high school, I imagine many of you are concerned about who are on this call. We obviously have to get the high school students back in school as well, and we can't wait to do that. We do anticipate that will happen on a slightly later timetable than it will for elementary schools, but we are working actively in the context of a high school reopening task force to figure out how we can do that reopening safely as soon as we can. And that task force is comprised of a lot of folks from the district, including principals, network chiefs, network operations managers, and other stakeholders. And we've been collecting ideas and feedback from all across the city on how to bring the students back safely. And in particular, we're focusing on all of the following areas that you see there in the slide. So models for in-person learning, scheduling, workforce planning, safety, technology, mental and social emotional wellness, out of school programs, athletics, instructional supports. It's obviously a very complex undertaking, and we owe it to you all and to ourselves to make sure that we do it as well as possible and as safely as possible. So I don't have a great deal more information than that at present as to the timetable for in-person reopening. I know it's top of mind for everyone, so I did want to highlight it. And in the context of reopening and return and recovery from COVID, which is what we're all focused on, did want to zero in on college and career access in particular. So the Office of College and Career Success is the office that I oversee. We exist to promote social and economic mobility among CPS students. And we do that by building systems and providing supports to increase the number of CPS graduates who earn post-secondary credentials and enter into fulfilling family-sustaining careers. We do that in a lot of different ways, and we have 5 different units that help support that work in schools and with students directly. The Office of School Counseling and Post-Secondary Advising is one of them. Another is the Office of Early College and Career Education. That is where our career and technical education programs live. The Office of Social Emotional Learning, the Office of Student Support and Engagement, which really focuses on special supports around attendance and truancy, making sure all students are engaged and attending school, as well as special supports for students in temporary living situations and for students involved in the juvenile justice system. We also have a competency-based education pilot that currently has 10 schools. So all of these offices are working together to try to bring about greater college and career success for CPS students through the lenses of how can we make sure that every student who graduates from Chicago Public Schools is academically and financially ready for post-secondary, is aware of and aligned to careers of interest, and also has the foundational skills necessary to be successful in college and career and in life beyond high school. So that is how we are organized as an overall office. We're really going to be focusing today on the Office of School Counseling and Post-Secondary Advising, which is where both Maria and Michelle live, organizationally speaking, and where a lot of our work specifically around college access is located. And I'm going to start off with a little bit of information just to frame a little bit the very high stakes challenge that we're facing right now as a community, as a country, as an ecosystem around college access. So nationwide, college enrollment numbers are down. You can see this in the news and have been for many months now. So we've seen overall that this is happening. We've seen in particular that it's happening for first-year students. We've seen that it's disproportionately affecting our Latino students, as well as our Black students. And final fall enrollment numbers are only just now coming in and starting to get finalized. And they're likely to change over the course of the year. And we do expect to see more students enroll over the course of the remainder of this year. And the news is troubling. We do see falls across the board. We especially see big drops in our community colleges, which are such a powerful lever for social and economic mobility for so many students across the city, across the country. And so we know that we need to take action to try to not just mitigate the fall, but to help us continue to send more and more students to college, and not just send them to college, help them earn a post-secondary credential. This is not just a nationwide issue, it's also a CPS issue, and we're seeing it in a few different ways. So this data shows the percentage of students who have signaled to us on their senior exit questionnaire that they intend to attend college the following year. You've seen that this hasn't changed tremendously. We're still within between 80 to 85% of our senior graduates signaling their intent to attend college, but we did see a decrease in 2020, no doubt connected with COVID and the challenges that we're all experiencing in relation thereto. It's not just students who are signaling their intent to go to college that are down slightly. We're also seeing that of those students who signal their intent to attend college, a larger number than we typically see didn't ultimately matriculate to college that following fall. So we did see 30% of students who said they were going to go intended to go to college the following fall did not in fact wind up enrolling at college in the fall, and that is a far larger number than last year's 22.3% rate. The flip side of that, of course, is that 70% of students did successfully transition to college, but we want to try to do our best to maximize the number of students who do wind up matriculating to college when that's their intent, and minimizing the number who intend to go but don't wind up making it. We're also seeing an early impact on our CPS college enrollment rates in connection with those two previous slides. So we were holding steady at around 67% in 2018 and 2019. So far this fall, we're at 58.5% overall. I do want to issue an important caveat that these numbers, the 2020 numbers, are not apples to apples with the 2018 and 2019 numbers. Those numbers were at the end of the year and after a great deal of internal reconciliation had taken place to make sure that we were properly counting all of the students who really are going to colleges. This is very hot off the presses and very preliminary, so I do anticipate that 58.5% number will increase, but I do expect a decrease compared to 2019, even after all that reconciliation has happened and all that additional data is in, a decrease of about 3.5 percentage points based on some data that we're preliminarily seeing from our partners at the University of Chicago. So we're seeing an impact. The college enrollment is down. Meanwhile, we want students to stay the course. If students have decided that college is best for them, we want to do everything that we can to support them in making it there and making it through there. Why? We know that a college education is more critical to success in the workforce than it has ever been before in the United States. And of the 11.6 million jobs that have been added since 2008, 99% have gone to workers with at least some college education. So we know that this isn't getting any less important. We know it's only getting more important. And beyond that, there are so many other reasons to stay the course. We know that some of the jobs that have been lost in the recession and the current economic conditions around COVID are those lower skilled jobs that may not require a college degree. We also know that if students, we know that a lot of students may be thinking about, I'm going to take a year off and I'll go to college next year. Obviously, if that's what makes most sense for a student and his or her family, that's something we want to support. And we also know that on average from research, many students who do take gap years don't wind up going to college and completing college. We see huge impacts from taking a gap year. And so, our big message to families and students is that we know that students and families want to stay the course and enroll in college. And in order to do that, they need the right information and support from us in order to do that. So today, especially based on some of the questions that we got in advance of this session, we want to focus on providing some information and highlighting our supports in two specific areas. One of those is making sure that every CPS senior graduates prepared with a personalized post-secondary plan. And we have a program that supports that readiness and the development of that plan that's called Learn, Plan, Succeed. Maria Bucio on the call oversees that directly. It's done a fantastic job with it. We also want to focus on making sure that every CPS graduate has access to money to pay for post-secondary education, because we know that that's what makes it possible. And we know that the challenges around finances are more acute right now than virtually any time in recent memory. So we want to make sure that our supports are clear in this respect. We want to make sure that you all understand how you can work on behalf of and advocate for your students, and also provide a forum for questions and answers. So I wanted to start for a moment with that personalized post-secondary plan. How can every student, not just every senior, but as students approach senior year, what's the best way for students and their families to help students think about, what do I want to do after college? In the long term, yes, and also backwards mapping from that, what shall I do right after college to help me move toward that goal? Learn, Plan, Succeed is a graduation requirement now. Last year, it was a graduation requirement for the very first time. And despite all the difficulties of COVID, 97.5% of last year's CPS seniors did complete that personalized post-secondary plan. And we couldn't be more happy about that or proud of that, because we know that when students have a plan, they're more likely to be able to implement that plan and succeed in whatever their post-secondary pathway might be. Learn, Plan, Succeed in particular is still a relatively new program. It's still a relatively new graduation requirement. And so we try to take every chance we get to talk about what we're hoping to see with Learn, Plan, Succeed. As we said, yes, it's a high school graduation requirement. Yes, it's actually a written thing, and college is a huge piece of it. But what we also recognize is that there are multiple pathways to post-secondary success, and college is just one of them. So when we talk about these personalized post-secondary plans, what we're hoping to see and support students in doing is committing to a near-term path forward in one of these pathways that you see at the top of the slide. So it might be college, it could be the military, it could be going directly into employment or an apprenticeship program or a job training program. It could be taking a gap year program, and there are a lot of good gap year programs out there that do a great job of skill building and helping students transition into that next step, whether it be work preparation or college. And then there are also other options. We want to make sure that we take an equitable approach so that when there are pathways that come up that maybe don't fall into one of these other categories, that we're able to accommodate and support that. So that's what Learn, Plan, Succeed is all about. There's far too much on this slide for me to go through here as I speak, but we will share this deck with you after the session. A lot of you asked in your questions, what should my student be doing right now? What could my student be doing right now to prepare for their post-secondary transition? And this slide lays out some of those key steps along the way, with a special focus on grade 11 and grade 12 for thinking through those college and career decisions, having a plan, developing a plan, and being able to attach money to that plan. So please do have a look at this slide. Please do visit cps.edu/learnplansucceed, which has some fantastic resources that you and your students can use to understand what kinds of post-secondary options are out there and how concretely you can pursue them. In addition to that, as the slide says, it's never too early or too late to plan for the future and for post-secondary options in particular. This slide provides a lot of possible steps that you can take along the way. We are here to support you. Your student school counselor is always a great contact for this, and that we have a great infrastructure of folks both in my office and in terms of partner organizations who can also support your students in thinking through these steps. But it's not just about 11th and 12th grade. We're already moving towards a college and career competency curriculum that hopefully will start as early as grade 6 and proceed all the way through grade 12, that helps a student continually peel the onion back of who do they want to be in the world? What do they want to do in the world? And how can we help you take the concrete steps necessary to get there? So Learn, Plan, Succeed, and having a concrete post-secondary plan is a huge part of what we're doing. We know that the best possible college plan is hard to actually implement and be successful with if you don't have the money to do it. And speaking myself as someone who has been really fortunate throughout my higher education experience, and I've had 3 higher education experiences, to have been able to get those degrees using scholarships and financial aid. My dad worked in education, and he did all right, but we were a middle class family, and without access to scholarships and financial aid, there was just no way that I would be where I am now. And so we as a district are committed to making sure that your students have those same opportunities, and that we're doing all that we can to help you get that bag and be able to pay for college, and hopefully be able to come out of college not only with a degree, but with a minimal amount of debt, so that that path to social and economic mobility really is as wide and clear as possible. So in terms of financial aid, you may be aware that every student at Chicago Public Schools in Illinois, not just in Chicago Public Schools, in Illinois, in order to receive a diploma, must complete a financial aid application. And that's what opens the gates to financial aid. So FAFSA is one of those options. Another one is the alternative application for Illinois financial aid. And another one is the ISB non-participation form. So that is a waiver option in case of extreme or extenuating circumstances. Certainly, we would encourage everyone to do this because there is money out there, and this is how you get it. Financial aid, of course, is one piece of the puzzle. Scholarships is another piece of the puzzle. And this is an area where Michelle Howard on this call right now has just done a tremendous job over the course of many years in helping CPS students access those dollars. You can see on this slide how many total scholarship dollars have been awarded each year since 2016. And we're talking over $1 billion every year. So lest you think that some of these financial barriers, which are very, 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 very real, are insurmountable, know that this money is out there. Our kids, your kids are getting it. And we have the people and the commitment to helping them access it. We were a little bit down in 2020, as we saw with other post-secondary metrics, but we were still well over $1 billion. And we're committed to working with you to make sure that we get to at least that number, and hopefully back to the heights of 2019, which was our highest ever year this year. We're very proud of our students, and we're very proud of the supports we've been able to offer them in terms of 2020 being the 5th consecutive year of scholarship offers over $1 billion. These are some CPS scholarship highlights for last year's class. These are strategic scholarships that have some special eligibility criteria and also some very robust supports. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but feel free to check out the slides. These are all options for your students pursuant to those eligibility criteria. I did want to call attention to the footer on this slide that strategic scholarship awards are key national, regional, or local opportunities for CPS students. Most can be awarded to attend any college or institution. So a lot of options out there, and a lot of options that come with large dollar amounts attached. In addition, especially given the time of year, that is to say, it's now February, a lot of the applications that students are going to make to four-year universities have now been made, and some of those key deadlines are now in our rearview mirror. Still, students can access city colleges all the way up until the beginning of next school year, and we know that city colleges is a good option for a lot of our students for a lot of reasons. The costs of city colleges are already comparatively low compared to a lot of the post-secondary options out there. And I did want to call attention to the Ccc Star Scholarship in particular, which covers all tuition and all books. There are eligibility criteria for it. You need to have a GPA of at least 3.0, and you must test completion ready in math and English. But it really is a way to go to college completely for free. It can be a springboard either to an associate's degree or to a transfer to a four-year college. And it's open to all students who meet the program requirements. And in particular, it's open to our undocumented students. who, just like all of our students, we're committed to helping pay for college and overcome the obstacles to college access. One of our questions was, when do I apply for scholarships? Did want to show this slide. I will let Michelle perhaps come back to this slide a little bit later on when we answer questions, to go through the slide, the graph itself. I think the takeaway here is that we're leading up to scholarship season, and the bulk of scholarship applications in every cycle occur beginning in late March and going through early June. So it's not too early to start getting ready for that, and certainly it's not too late to put in for those scholarships and get your students access to those dollars. Another question was, great, I know about scholarships, I want them, how do I access them? So this platform, Academic Works, is our CPS portal to scholarships. You can access it at cps.academicworks.com. As it says here on the slide, it's the district's web-based scholarship management system. So this is a common platform that can provide access and facilitate concrete application steps towards getting those scholarship dollars in a broad variety of scholarships. Scholarship Resources Starter Guide, Michelle, like I said, is on the call. She's our CPS Scholarship Manager. You can reach her. It's college scholarships at cps.edu. You can see that students can take these concrete steps to sign up for Academic Works and then start shopping scholarships. And we would encourage everybody to do that. This is not just seniors, this could be everybody. You know, we want to build scholarship awareness, scholarship literacy, and try to get as many of our kids as possible to have access to these dollars. So that's some of what we're working on in OCCS right now to make sure that your students have access to post-secondary, and that they're confident in their individual plans for post-secondary. I guess at this point, I would pass it back to Berenice and see what kinds of questions we might want to answer.
Thank you, Chief, for that. That was a lot of information. So we're going to let our parents kind of suck it in a little bit, because it's a lot, right? I think navigating post-sec, as you know, sometimes can be really hard, especially for some of our parents who might not be English speakers, who are first generation. So we will send this this presentation out via email to everybody that's here today, so you can take some time and read it. And ask more questions if you have them. But so thank you so much for that. We are going to get started with the questions from people who RSVP and provided us to us ahead of time. So the first one comes from, and I'm going to say, I say this at every session. Sorry if I butcher your name. Yasmin Patino from Curie High School in Richards Elementary. So she gave us her question in Spanish. I'm going to translate it for you guys. It says, how long in advance do you apply for college scholarships? Which you went a little bit over that. And if a student doesn't qualify by their grades for these scholarships, what other resources are there to help these students economically to attend college?
This is where I would love to pass it off to one of our experts on this subject. Michelle Howard, would you like to take that question?
Thanks. Thank you so much, Chief Deuser, and thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be able to share, much like my chief, the best part of our job is being in front of students and families to be able to connect them to these resources. So in Chicago Public Schools, as our chief shared, we have strategic scholarships. So that's something that's very different than just Googling scholarships, right? Every scholarship that we promote through Chicago Public Schools, we have an actual human being contact. So our scholarships are legitimate for students to be able to start accessing and applying for. One of the things around the scholarship window is typically what we've learned based on the resources that we promote. Our scholarships have about a 2 to 3 month window for applications. So that means that we want to make sure that even though we have moved our scholarship season to being year round, our first scholarship opens in August, our last scholarship closes in August, we want to make sure that students and families know what to expect. So in addition to Academic Works, we have a couple of other resources that are listed within that starter guide that loops students and families back to Academic Works. But it gives you a perspective of seeing scholarships in our Scholarship Alert workbook that shows all of the scholarships that are due each month. We also have a tab in that workbook for elementary schools. So there's never a too early time. The scholarships for elementary school students are generally essays or contests or little things like that, but they still give them an opportunity to apply for scholarships. We also have a tab for 9th through 11th graders. So anything that we have specifically for the 9th through 11th grade students are available as well. And then the monthly tabs in our Scholarship Alert workbook are specifically for seniors. We do have scholarships for students who are below a 2.5 GPA. We have scholarships for students that is no GPA, no test score, but the hook is always the essay. So the test scores and the GPAs, all of those things, those are our eligibility criteria in a sense. But students win scholarships because they write stellar essays. So we do have those opportunities available to have no GPA, no test score, but we really have to focus our students around making sure that they're writing who they are, what they want, what their plans are, where they've come from, how they've been involved in their community, where their leadership lies, so that they can win the scholarships based on who they are, not what they have on their transcript.
Thank you, Michelle, for that. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of our parents don't know that, right? We always hear like you have to have a really high GPA and be have all these grades to apply for these scholarships. So just you mentioning all these opportunities, even for elementary school kids, right? Like I have a 6th grader, so I'm going to jump on that right away. So thank you so much for that, because I think that's good to know. I know we have some students who are wonderful writers, right? They might not, be great at math. I know I wasn't great at math, right? But they're great writers. They can share their story and tell us what else they do. They're probably like great leaders in their community. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're going to go to another question. I think it's Maya. She did not say from what school, but the question is, can you detail what a CPA's high school student, specifically juniors, need to be doing right now? So logistically, right, as far as application process and resources to start preparing themselves for their senior year.
Great question. Thank you for the question. Thank you for preparing now. I would love for Maria Bucio to field that question. It's so closely connected with Farm Blend Succeed.
Yes, thank you everyone. And thank you for being here. And thank you for taking interest in your students and their preparation for life after high school. Just a few tips, and we did put together a slide for you guys with some just very specific things to do with your students. But for the 11th graders, really the focus is on really starting to explore what they want in their lives, how they define success, and how they're going to get there. And so there are different things to consider, such as the academic planning and making sure that they're involved in extracurricular activities that are going to give them a sense of the things that they like and they don't like, making sure you're taking inventory of the classes that the students are taking. Are they meeting the graduation requirements? Are they on track to graduate high school on time? And taking inventory of those grade point averages, because that is also going to help once they get into the 12th grade and are looking for those scholarships that we're all wanting. The other thing is also building their own post-secondary knowledge and understanding what they're getting themselves into. And one thing that we don't give enough time to, I think, because we're always running to do the applications and do the things that need to get done, it's really exploring and considering career options and investigating the type of education or credentials that are going to be needed for that thing that the student wants to do, whether it's college or an apprenticeship or a trade or starting their own business or whatever that may be. Gaining some perspective on how the student fits or how the student is a match for that pathway that the student is considering, if it's college or something else. Understanding the application processes, taking the PSAT. It's an exam that is required in many colleges. So the PSAT gets us ready for the SAT. So taking the PSAT in the fall gives the student a sense of where they may need to improve so that they can do really well on that SAT in the spring. We are now seeing a lot of colleges that are going test optional. So that's another thing to consider. Identifying scholarships and exploring the financial aid options. So whatever it is that the student is looking to do, how are they going to finance it? And what are the deadlines? What is the process? Where do you get the application? Who can support me? Who can help answer my parents' questions? This is a lot of what we get in the schools. The other bucket of work that needs to be done is exploring that post-secondary pathway that the student is gravitating towards. So beyond just kind of getting a sense and understanding post-secondary options and the things that they need to do after high school, it's really taking a dive at the things that most interest the students. So understanding the different pathways and how they correlate to the student's definition of success. requesting materials from schools or from the programs that they're interested in, arranging visits, prioritizing the colleges. So we always aim for that, at least the 3 top colleges. And if it's another pathway that they're exploring, it's what are those organizations or programs that offer what the student is looking for. And then the last bucket of work that needs to happen really is about building leadership. And it's really about taking inventory of who they are, what they're about, and starting to prepare for those interviews, putting together those resumes, and it's a collection of who they are and what they've done, preparing for the mock interview, right? Developing leadership qualities, exploring jobs and internships and apprenticeships during the summer, making plans for the future. Once we get into the 12th grade, we're doing a lot of the same things, but we're now starting to zone in into making it a reality. So where you were exploring in the 11th grade, in the 12th grade, we're starting to make it a reality. So it's, again, making sure that the student is meeting graduation requirements, that they're improving in their writing and their academic confidence. I can do this. Yes, I will be admitted into college. And if I apply, there's great likelihood that I'm going to get in. I think that's one of the things that our students often struggle with, this sense of, I won't get in, so why should I try? And so what we have found over time and in working with our students is that if they apply, they will get in. And if they apply for scholarships and financial aid, they will get the funds. Again, we're working a lot in the 12th grade on building the post-secondary knowledge and how to navigate all of the processes to get a student to have a plan for the following year. But really the focus in 12th grade is about choosing a pathway and sorting out the steps that the student will need to take in order to get to that end goal. And then it's about building self-advocacy, knowing how to advocate for self and say, this is what I want, and being able to take the steps that are necessary to make them a reality, and owning that process versus waiting for someone else to help them do it. It's the, I can do this, I will do this, and taking a plan that they've developed with us and making it a reality. So having the valor, if you may, to be able to then move forward and take those real steps to show up to the first day of college or the first day of apprenticeship or whatever it is that they've chosen.
Thank you, Maria, for that. And I think it's really important what you said, right? Like in 11th grade, that practice, because, you know, we get nervous. Like I still get nervous presenting, right? So when you're talking about the interview, right? Like being ready and just practicing with your colleagues, with your counselors, with your teachers. I know a lot of great teachers and counselors make themselves available to practice with the kids. So it's fantastic that you mentioned that, like start early, start with the exploring and practice. Practice makes perfect. So keep practicing it. You know, some words, sometimes we get so nervous, we get all tongue twisted. So practice those things and be ready so that you feel, like you said, that confianza, right? Be confident when you're walking into that room to have that interview. So thank you so much, Maria, for that. I appreciate it.
Can I add one more
Yeah,
thing?
absolutely.
So tying together to something that Michelle mentioned when she was talking about scholarships, that essay piece. So one really concrete thing that I wanted to make sure folks were aware of, especially the parents out there, the students likely are, but our platform for post-secondary access is called Naviance, and we have a series of tasks on Naviance that students can engage in to do precisely those things that Maria was talking about, so that it is a supported walk through doing some of these tasks, and it's not just a student out there Googling, right? So to put some supports around it. And one of those tasks is, especially as a student is coming down towards the end of that junior year, is draft a college essay, draft a post-secondary essay, not just to sort of get that practice, but to really hopefully have a product that you can work with when the time comes early next year.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I think it's good to know, even the best writers sometimes struggle, right? And we get that block where we don't know what to write. So I appreciate that the kids will have that support and have like things that they can practice so they can be ready once they're seniors. So appreciate that from both of you guys. Thank you so much. Our second question, it's a couple of questions from this parent, from Jasmine from Pilsen. So the first one is, when applying for school for either college or university, should we pick a major or apply as undeclared? So in that, I'm going to do a little bit. If you guys can actually explain a little bit for those parents that don't understand what undeclared and declaring a major is, and then answer the question, that'll be helpful, I think.
That sounds great. Maria, I'll likely pass it to you to say better than I can. But I think my initial answer would be, you know, so when you go into college knowing what you're going to major in and saying what you're going to major in and taking all of your coursework towards that end, Or do you go in knowing you wanted to get a degree, but you're not quite sure in what, and you want to take a more exploratory approach? I think that my perspective is there are positives and negatives to both approaches. I was undeclared going into college, and I didn't really figure it out until some part of the way through sophomore year, late in sophomore year, maybe. And, on one hand, it gave me a chance to explore and think about what I did want to do. And that was great. On the other hand, I didn't make as much progress towards my degree in the major as I would have had I known going in. Meanwhile, my financial aid clock is ticking, right? So there is an argument in favor of going in declared, just so that you can get to that end goal as quickly and with as little unnecessary expense as possible. So I do think it is a polarity to manage between exploration and efficiency. But Maria and/or Michelle, please feel free to share your perspective.
I think you're on point, Dr. Deuser. It's one of the things that we often hear from our parents is, well, if they don't know what they want to do, then why start? Let's just wait till they figure it out. Not necessarily the best way to handle this. One of the things that happens in the colleges, and depending on the program or the pathway that the student chooses, it may be a little bit different. But for the most part, those students who are choosing college, the first 2 years are really about exploration, and those courses serve as a base for just about any major. It's what we call liberal arts education. And so the students are really exploring, and they're trying to figure out where is it that they fit in, what do they like. They start to kind of meet people that are interested in those fields, and they start to really delve into them. It's especially critical for families where the student is the first to go to college. This is a great opportunity for them to meet people, to explore, to ask questions, and to figure it out, if you may. So it's okay to start undeclared, and it's okay to come in with the idea that you're going to be a math major and then realize that you really, really don't like that calculus course. And it's a good thing to learn it early on. The other thing, we often see students who want to do nursing, and then they realize they don't like blood, right? So coming in and having a sense of what you kind of think you like kind of starts to put you in the right path, but then it also it puts you in places where you realize that's not your thing. So it's okay to start undecided, and it's okay to change your mind.
Thank you, Maria, for that. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. And you're right. Some of us changed our major, right, when we started. So I appreciate that. The second question to Jasmine is, where can they check their daughter's GPA to see if they're high enough to get into those selective schools? So where can the parents go to get this information?
You have an amazing tool at your hands, and Chief Deuser spoke about this. It's that Naviance tool. So every one of our students has an account where we outline a set of activities that are grade specific, and we've done this for grades 6 through 12. But one of the things that you are going to find as parents is that on the student's profile, you will be able to see their test scores for PSATs, SATs, and grade point average, weighted and unweighted. You will also receive in November and April for most of our students in 10th and 11th grade, and for seniors during the 12th grade, you will receive a Learn, Plan, Succeed progress report. One of the things that you're going to see in that report at the top of the page, and it has it on almost every page, is the student's GPA. It'll have weighted, unweighted, and it will also have the test score. So this helps you figure out where your student is at the moment. And usually these come out right before report card pickup. So it's a great conversation starter. You can look through this document. There's a list of the graduation requirements that your students must meet in order to get a high school diploma. And it shows you how close the student is to meeting those requirements. So if you review this document before report card pickup, now you have something to really talk about when you come to report card pickup, to say, how can we improve our grade point average? How can we make sure that our student graduates on time, that they're meeting the requirements? And these are available in multiple languages, by the way. So if you are getting a report in a language that is not your preferred language, simply contact the school counselor and they will send you, they can print it out for you or send it to you, and they will make sure that we record the language that you prefer, and you will always get English and the language that you prefer.
Thank you, Maria, for that. And I think this is, like, I say this in every meeting, but I think this is where it's really important to make sure that we have your contact information, parents, right? That we have the right phone number, the right address, because they're being mailed to you. So if we have the correct information, you're probably not going to get those. So this is a time where call your school, talk to the clerk, and make sure that your information is up to date in our system. So thank you, Maria, for that. One of the other questions that they had in talking about financial, right? How do we pay for school? So how can a parent check to make sure that they make enough money to support their students' tuition?
It's a complex question. Maria and Michelle, I imagine you both have thoughts on that.
There, if you're speaking about the financial aid forms, whether it's the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, or the alternative application for Illinois financial aid, there is no magic number in terms of household income. The formula that is used to calculate a student's eligibility is 36 pages long, and it takes into account things like how many people live at home, how many will be going to college, how old are the parents, how close are they to retirement. It has a lot of questions on the FAFSA, and that helps determine essentially what the Department of Education, what the state, and what the institutions can give a family. So there is no magic number in terms of any income. My best advice to you is apply. Provide the information that is requested of you by the college. Many of you may be requested to submit copies of tax forms. It's okay. Submit what they're asking you for, and let the colleges put together an award notice for you that includes the scholarships, the grants, the work study, and other options, so that the student and you can review it and decide if this is a good fit for you. The other thing to do is that if you find that that is not a good fit for you, it's not going to work out for you, speak up. Tell them that it doesn't work for you. Tell them that there are other circumstances that have not been acknowledged through the application, like we lost a job, or someone at home got really sick, or something out of your control happened. Let them know. Now that we are in a pandemic, many of the colleges that we work with are very flexible and open to hearing what has happened, what has changed in your home, so that they can support you and your student in making college a reality.
Yep. Thank you, Maria, for that. And
Michelle?
Go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead.
And I want to just add, when it comes to scholarships, oftentimes students and families think about scholarships as kind of a blanket umbrella of things, when in fact, you really want to apply for every single thing that you're eligible for. And I'm telling you, this is important because that's why my role exists. I do all scholarships all day long, and I am always inundated with all of these different applications and promoting these opportunities because it's really important to apply for everything that you're eligible for and then determine how that's going to work once you've been offered the scholarship opportunity. One of the questions that came up in the chat is something that I think is really important to acknowledge right now. Due to COVID and the pandemic environment, many of our scholarship providers are waiving test scores. So the Winter Foundation Scholarship, which is a scholarship that is only intended for Chicago public school students, you do have to have the 3.0 GPA, but there used to be a test score associated with that. Loads of more students are eligible for that scholarship now because the test score has been removed as a barrier for those students. And it's really important to recognize that when it comes to scholarships, need is determined differently. So universities determine need one way based generally off of the FAFSA, but scholarship providers, depending on the organization, the company that's offering the scholarship, can calculate needs very differently. So I would encourage students to apply unless it says, explicitly states that they're looking for need based on your student aid report that was provided through your FAFSA. They could be determining need as a family that makes $150,000. You know, it really depends on the organization. And so students do and families do need to read through, and that's one of the reasons why we have a sign up for scholarship alerts for students and for parents. This is not something that students should be navigating on their own. We want to work with the whole family unit to make sure that our students are applying for scholarships that they're eligible for and that they understand what they need to do.
Thank you, Michelle, for that. And I think that's really key for you to mention. Like, there's other things that come into play when you're applying for scholarships, right? Schools might have other things to offer depending on your specific situation. So thank you, Maria and Michelle, for that.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go for it. The more information, the best. Go for it.
One plug I would put in along the same lines of individualized learning plans on Naviance is check out the net price calculator. So if you're thinking about colleges in particular, you can understand based on the real cost of that college, and I believe your own income may figure into it somehow, what's the price that you're really going to wind up paying for this college? And then you can stack that up against the kind of value that you think you're going to get out of it. 3 big takeaways that I just want to highlight again are, number one, you may not believe it, you may not think so, but colleges want your students. They need your students more than ever. So, you know, be confident in that and know that it's not, you know, they're not doing you a favor. You know, your students are what make this work for colleges. The second is there is money for you. Almost regardless of your circumstances, there is money for you somewhere, and it's a matter of finding it. And the third is, and I think this is a little bit of what Maria is getting at, once you get your award letter, ask for more. So my dad worked in financial aid at a university, and I learned it from him. What can I say? It works, right? Highlight why you need more. Don't be shy to ask for more. That's what they do, right? So advocate for yourself and be confident that there's money for you and there's a place for your child.
And thank you so much for that, because I think most of us believe once we get our letter, that's it. That's all the school is going to give you, right? So thank you for saying advocate if you need more, and tell them why, and make an appointment with that person right at the university so they can see you, they get to know you, and then not forcefully, but tell them how you need more, right? Thank you, Chief, for that. One of the other questions, I know there's a couple questions on the chat, but I want to do this last question that was given to us because I think it's important for some of our parents. Talking about students with 504 plans and IEPs, right? So for those students that are able to pursue college or university, where do they get support from us in CPS? And who, I know from transition from elementary to high school, their support is their support to transition from high school to a college or a university.
I have a thought there, and Michelle, Maria, feel free to add to it. So one thing that I want to make sure that parents and students know is that colleges can't ask if you have a disability. It's illegal. So in order for them to know that you have one and be able to support you and direct you in the right kinds of places, you need to tell them. And I know that can be tough to do, and there's almost no way around it, right? So so really specifically, most colleges do have a disability resource center or something to that effect, and they are there to support students who have an individualized education plan. It's not going to work exactly the same way it does in K-12, but almost every college will have these resources. You do need to raise your hand. We are trying to do a better job at CPS of helping students become aware of that opportunity and that need. And at least I mean, on one hand, you can think of it as a small piece of the pie. On the other hand, it's a relatively big piece. We're working closely with city colleges to make sure that there's a specific transition program that our students with IEPs who are matriculating to city colleges can take advantage of, where before they even enroll at city colleges full time, when they're still enrolled at Chicago Public Schools and getting all the paraprofessional support that they get as part of that they can go to a designated place on every city college campus with their teacher or their paraprofessional. Do work there, get a tour of the campus, understand where the Disability Access Center is, understand how to access advising services and all those kinds of things. So we are aware that we need to do a better job of supporting students with IEPs and their post-secondary transition, and we're working on that. And I think one of the best things I could ask families to do, students to do, is to raise your hand and search out the whatever the university's equivalent of the Disability Resource Center is.
Thank you, Chief, for that.
That could be a small piece of the puzzle. So Maria or Michelle, feel free to add.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. We have been working very closely with the Office of Diverse Learning Services here at Chicago Public Schools to try to ensure that families and staff who work with our students are aware of all of the options available to our students. So just as an example, the completing of a financial aid application is a requirement for all students who are graduating, exiting, or aging out. We're also aware of programs like the DRS and the Whip Out and the PUNS. And so working with them to ensure that our students are tapping into those services, and that families are part of that process as well. So there are many, many opportunities. But again, I do want to emphasize what Chief Deuser shared. If the student is choosing a college, they need to advocate for themselves. They need to be able to learn how to disclose their disability in a way that they're going to get the supports that they need. And here at CPS, we're working with counselors, coaches, what we call DRs, district representatives, to make sure that the students know how to advocate. There's a document that we can share with parents to give you tips and ideas on how to best advocate, but you really do have to advocate for yourself. And
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Chief. And that document, we're going to take you on that, and we'll send it to everybody via email once the session is over. So don't worry about like, where do we get it? We'll email it to you guys. I am going to go to some of the questions in the chat. We have Lilia, and this is a question. How is the scholarships different from FAFSA? So if you guys can explain a little bit what that is and why are they different?
Big difference. And I know Maria will jump in here, but what I will say as it relates to scholarships is scholarships are not loans in any way, shape, or form. If you are awarded scholarships through our strategic CPS partners or any scholarship, even if that's from a university or institution, that is not money that you will have to pay back. It is a gift, and it goes however the scholarship provider determined. So if it's a scholarship from the university, you will have to attend that university. What we try to do with our strategic scholarships that we promote through Chicago Public Schools are scholarships that are awarded for them to attend any institution. So the Winter Foundation Scholarship, and I always use the Winter Foundation Scholarship because it is specific to Chicago Public Schools, and that scholarship awards, I think we had 87 or so in the last school year. So that helps you understand this is not a scholarship that's being awarded to one or two kids. There's 20,000 seniors in Chicago Public Schools at any given school year. So we're working with scholarship partners who are looking to award several students in our district versus one or two. But again, these are funds that are considered gifts. You do not have to pay them back in any way, shape, or form. What I will say, though, is that they are not free money. I do not use that phrase because you do have to do something for them, whether that's completing the application, doing the essay. It requires some effort from you. But scholarships are monies that you can award, can be awarded to your education. And some of our scholarships will even put the money in your pocket. So we have some organizations who do not determine if the funds have to go towards your tuition, which means that that money can go towards transportation, food, other things that are necessary for you to get to college, laundry. So again, these are things that can be specified when you are looking at a specific scholarship, but scholarships are very different than financial aid. I'll let Maria talk about financial aid.
Yeah, so I don't know that I would call them different. I think that they're part of the bundle. So there are 4 doors that you can knock on when it comes to monies for life after high school. And that is the Department of Education, which awards billions, with a B, billions of dollars in federal aid. And those can come in the form of a scholarship, a grant, work study, or student loans. There's also the state, and here in the state of Illinois, that's the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, who also awards scholarships and grants. And they're really big on providing benefits to students who are veterans and wanting to go into nursing and into teaching. Okay. The third door to knock on is the institution, the college, the university, and colleges and universities will have the ability to award their own monies beyond the monies that are coming from the federal government and the state. And then the fourth door is those private scholarships that Michelle is talking about. So how you knock on those doors depends on what door you're trying to knock on. To knock on the door of the Department of Education and ISAC, you need a FAFSA or the alternative application in the case of the state money. Most institutions will also award monies on the basis of some of that information, but institutions and private scholarships tend to have their own applications. What's really unique about institutions, colleges, is that they a lot of times avoid asking for an additional application because they can pull what they need from that FAFSA that the student completed or the alternative application. Now, the 4 bundles of money that you're typically looking for are the grants, which typically are awarded on the basis of a family's taxes, income that's coming in and out of the home, scholarships, grant scholarships, work study, and loans. So work study typically is you work and you study while you're in school, and it never counts against you in terms of putting together an award letter because it's considered financial aid. So financial aid is made up of those 4 buckets of funds, if you may.
Thank you, Maria. And just to clarify, the grants and the scholarship, right? It's money that you don't have to pay back, right? Just want to make that sure for parents. That's money that it's given to you, and once you use it, you don't have to pay it back to anybody. Thank you.
Subsidios. In Spanish, we call them becas and subsidios.
Thank you so much for that, because I think that's, as parents, we always think of that, right? Like, what do I have to pay back if we're helping our kids go to school, or even as students, if they're paying their own way, right? Like, they're thinking, what can I get that I don't need to pay back? So thank you so much, guys, for that. I know we're running out of time. So Chief, I'm going to ask you, what are 3 main takeaways that you want parents who join us today? I know it's a lot of info. We gave them a lot of really good information. Good thing we recorded this so they can go back and listen to it again. But what are 3 main things that you want them to take away tonight?
Thank you. I prepared, so I wrote this down. One is that having a post-secondary credential is more critical than ever, and COVID only makes it more important. So stay the course. Don't abandon the course. The second is that there are many paths to post-secondary out there. There's one for you, and we're here to support you on your path. And the third is there is money out there for you, and we can help you access it. So stay the course, find the money, do it. You can do it. And you know,
we're here to help
more
you.
important than ever. We're going to help you. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maria, Michelle, Chief. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your expertise and a lot of information. So parents, I know your head might be spinning right now because we gave you a lot of stuff, but we will send this deck out. We will send a lot of the information Maria and Michelle shared with us via email. So be on the lookout for that for tomorrow as we send it out to you guys. Parents, thank you so much for giving us your time today. I know it was a busy day. You're going to go outside today and start shoveling in a little bit. So we appreciate your time. As always, it was a pleasure giving you guys this information, and have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Vicky, for translating and doing the interpretation. Shout out to Vicky for helping us out. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you to everyone.